Hello, this is Real World Audio, and this is about New Hope. I think you have seen already my long tone arm in my videos, but probably you have not realized how impossibly long it truly is. It's this big. That's literally almost a meter long tone arm, and I have built quite a few wooden arms. Um, I think this one turned out pretty decent. I'm not saying that this is the very best of them because I have made a concession for convenience. So the base of it, I'm using basically a Lean Basics base, and that's because it has the queuing mechanism, so I can lift up the arm and put it down without coming up with a clunky device here to lift and lift and to cue it. So anyway, uh, actually I did something extra on it. So as you see, the arm, uh, it's not using the bearings of the Lean Basic, but it's using Teflon bearing. So you see there's a piece of Teflon on the side, mounted to the side of the arm, and and the and the arm base is hinging on basically on those Teflon sockets, and it has like a very smooth frictionless connection, so it's pretty decent, but it doesn't beat my solution that I generally use with my wooden arms, and it's a much higher grade solution, and that's a unipivot graphite bearing suspension, and that sounds like really high-tech and very fancy, and however it's the cheapest, most easiest way to do. You just grab a pencil. This is not a pencil, but a pencil just looks something like this, and you use it, you stick it under the arm, and that's where it pivots on, and then you are good. And there are unipivot arms that are commercial, and many of them royally suck, because even though it's like a wooden arm on a unipivot suspension, on a unipivot bearing, but they put the counterweight not down but high up. So if the counterweight is up here and it's unipivot, then it will sound like a mono arm, because of the unipivot, it has the flexibility to move laterally. So here's the pivoting pencil, and it's basic. I cannot really, let's see, maybe here if I put it down, so there's the arm, and it can laterally move around that pivoting point. And now if the weight is here, so that my fist is the counterweight, then this whole thing doesn't have, maybe let's just put it under my wrist. Okay, so then this whole thing, it doesn't have any lateral stability, and it can literally keel over. Now let's take a lesson from boats, and then the keel weight, it's lowered, and now if it's lowered, then the lateral movements are much less, because the gravitation holds the weight down. So that's the secret of unipivot arms. You have to just keep the weight low. So as you see, my counterweight goes not to the side, not to the back, unlike what we have with the regular arm. You see the counterweight is up here. No, that's the bad thing. Don't do it if you make an arm. Do it this way. So you just drop it down. And going back to my one of my earlier arms, I just used literally a balsa wood yardstick that was like a yard long arm, propped it up on a pencil, attached a piece of wood to it, and actually there I added some metal counterweight, which is not as good as non-metal. I will explain that in a different episode. But basically that very simple arm was outrageously good sounding. And I really appreciate all the ideas on building the perfect tone arm, but that beyond simple arm that looked like super suspicious, but it was so freaking amazing that it just totally blew my mind and everyone's mind. It was just insanely good. And I think this arm is second best to it, even though I am using more and more technology and more fancy things to get to that level, but it's still not there where that really minimalist arm got me. And that's part of what I do, and that why I call my channel Real World Audio, because I want to find the simplest solutions possible. So, for example, if what I am doing is I'm improving on things. So, for example, there's a Sony pickup artist tonearm, I think PUA 560 or something like that. That's its model number, and this arm is a vast improvement over it. And now look at it. Like if you want to machine it and build it, you would need tooling that costs you an arm and a leg, and expertise and know-how that's just flowing through the wazoo, and so you cannot build this at home, or you want to, you really need to go to town to manufacture it for your own. If you want to build a wooden arm, get a yardstick, get a pencil, get a piece of wood and then a block of heavy wood, and basically mount your cartridge, put in some wires. I glued them in with wood glue. You can do the same thing, and then just adjust the pivot position, and then adjust the weight of the arm so that you have the proper tracking force, and that's it. So now let's say that you want the benefit of a wooden arm, but you don't really want to just work so much on it and go crazy, and look at that. You need a table this big for so this is really the whole thing as my turntable, and most of us really want a turntable that's like this size or smaller, right? So for most people this long arm is out of question, especially if you have dogs or curious cats or young children or something like that. So in that case, what you can do, and this is where my new hope is kicking in, that if you want to have I would say 60% of the benefits of a wooden arm, but you are forced to use a small arm, and you want to do it in half an hour instead of maybe doing research for a week and tweaking things and taking a week of your life, then you can do it in half an hour, and all that you need is basically a piece of wood. And this is that piece of wood that I used, and it's called a para king wood, and unfortunately it says origin Mexico and very rare. And what sort of wood is this? In the previous episodes I talked about tone wood. I showed the tone wood to you. This is also wood that music instruments are made of, but not that typical tone wood that has those really tight grain orientation. This is that wood that flutes and woodwind instruments are made of. And if I were to tap it, I can't really tap it with one hand and tapping with... No, I can't really tap it. No, not really. I would need two hands to do that, but this has absolutely wonderful sound. And of course you cannot make a guitar or a violin out of it, but you cannot make really a functioning flute out of spruce either. So if you want a flute, then you get this wood. And I used this wood because I needed some extra weight for the arm, because I have that head shell and it's way too light. And as you remember, I used to have an extra brass piece sitting on top of my head shell to create enough weight for this. Because I have another head shell which is much heavier, and the mono cartridge is sitting on that, and I just want the ability to just remove one and put on the other without bothering with the weight changes. And this head shell plus cartridge is so much lighter that I need that extra boost to it. And eventually this arm, I cannot make the counterweight light enough for this head shell and cartridge combination. So what I did, instead of putting it there, I attached the weight to the arm itself. And another reason for that, because that counterweight, one night it just fell off behind the rack, so it's sitting somewhere in the back, and I was too lazy to fish it out, and I thought, good riddance, because it's a really nasty way to treat a head shell, because if you add weight higher up, then it's like that anti-keel situation. So where I showed you that if you have your boat or your tone arm and you have the counterweight, which is the keel weight down, then it stabilizes it. If you add weight above the level of it, above the plane, then you destabilize it. And I really wanted to fix that for a long while, and finally I was forced to do it. So what I did is I cut off a piece from the end of the para king's wood, and attached it to the arm. And there is a piece of tape in between the two, so that I did not want to just touch them with each other, because you touch metal with a highly resonant wood that resonates at very high frequency, then that will give like nasty resonances as they knock against each other at very high frequencies. I don't want that. What I want is this metal arm to shift its metallic resonances and add the resonances of the wood to it. And how I could do that is I added a thin layer of double-sided tape under that. So that's the Scotch tape that they use to hold the windows in buildings everywhere in the world. So that is like a super strong tape. But I also added just a round of Teflon tape. This is plumber's tape around the edges, because I just wanted to make sure that it really just keeps on there. I don't want to just lose this weight at the moment. And also that little Teflon tape at the end, that just adds a little bit of stability to hold it in place and prevent excessive movements. And lo and behold, with this change, with the addition of that, of course I then adjusted the tracking weight exactly to the same as it was before, and the change is astonishing. So what the wood imparts to the sound, I really was expecting that the woodwinds will sound better, and partially because I'm changing the tone arm basically to an instrument similar as a flute, because I'm now, part of the material is basically the same wood that flutes are made of, and it's true, flutes sound absolutely amazing now. I didn't even believe it myself. Well, well, I had to. I was listening to it, and it's not just the flute, but especially the bass. It's just tremendous how much it improved, and this cartridge just and then the arm itself, they stepped up to such a degree that it's really hard to believe that I'm using a metallic arm, because what I noticed and what I have a lot of experience with, not just me but my body's also built wooden arms, is that when you go for a wooden arm, then you lose that capacitance that the metal gives you. You lose the metallic resonances, and you have a so much more natural sound, and that artificiality that the metal imparts, that is so much negated by that piece of wood there. So this is my good news, and I conclude with that. If you don't want to take the pains to make the long wooden arm, and you don't even make the pains to make a short wooden arm, then just add a piece of wood to your metal arm. And this is the way I already described to you how to do it. And if you think that, oh my god, I can't afford it, then go to your next wood store and you can buy a small block like this, or maybe just a shaving. All the size you need is this. This is like a 3 inches long and less than half an inch by half an inch, like a quarter inch by quarter inch by 3 inches long. That's all you need. And when you go into a fine woodwork store, at least here in the US, then there's always a waste bin at the end. So when people buy things maybe by the yard or by the pound, and they cut it, and the shavings they just put in a box, and often you can pick up that shaving of that size, even of that exquisite wood, for $1 or less. And of course you don't have to go with Para Kingswood, just look for something similar. You can try ebony, you can try Mapingo, Bubinga, or if you live in, for example, in Australia, there are amazing Australian woods that I do not know their names, but I'm pretty sure that you can find easily at least a dozen species in Australia which are absolutely smashing and will improve the sound. And do not worry about what exactly is the type of wood. You can try out multiple ones if you want to, and you will notice that they will give different personality to the sound, and personality not in a bad way, so that now I have a coloration or whatnot, but a personality like when you listen to your favorite singer, and then who is your favorite tenor, and then it's like one or the other, like or like Montserrat Caballé or Maria Callas, if we are looking at the ladies, at sopranos, and so that type of difference. But you will be in that league when you add that piece of wood, and just don't forget to readjust the tracking weight, because that will add a tremendous extra weight to the tracking weight. So thank you for tuning in. I hope many of you will try that wooden addition, and I can almost guarantee to you that if you do that change, that will pretty much, I almost said the word trump, pretty much trump any cartridge upgrade that you make, or maybe not. But if you do a cartridge upgrade that is maybe just one category better than your current cartridge, this wooden upgrade will be most likely quite a bit bigger upgrade than slapping out an extra $1,000 or $2,000 or $3,000 for a cartridge upgrade. So sometimes $1 takes you further than 1,000, and this is one of your cases. So thank you for tuning in. Let's keep it real, keep it realistic and simple. Like, subscribe, tell your friends. Bye bye.